This is actually the front of the seat here. I've got it flipped upside down. I started out by removing two 10mm nuts. Here's the hinge where the seat pivots in the front. This plate here, these two studs stick through. I remove these two 10mm nuts and the seat popped right off. Just used about a 5-inch extension ratchet, worked perfect, no problem. Now I'm pulling the staples out. I'm going to pull out the staples around the front half of the seat. These lineman's pliers here, these electrical pliers work real good because they've got a good accurate tip on them here where I can get in, pull out the staples. Okay, I've got all the staples pulled. Here's the foam pad unit. Here's the upholstery. Next step, you can see here how there's a rise there. I'm going to go ahead and take that out, starting right about here. And I'm going to take this down about 2 inches. Probably use my Dremel. I'll try a few different tips and I'll let you know what seems to work the best. I think if I can get 2 inches of drop on this, that she'll be able to touch the ground properly. Okay, here's where we're at. I took the piece that I cut off, the piece of the seat that I removed that was up about 2 inches higher, and I trimmed it with my oscillating tool, and I heated it. I heated the edges little by little with a heat gun to where, you know, right below melting temperature. And with gloves on and a rag, I pressed it out to flatten it. And I'm using that piece that I removed as a form. I've coated it with masking tape. I taped it in place with duct tape around the perimeter on the bottom. I'll fill it, I'll sand it to get my shape that I want. Then I'll put a thin coat of fiberglass with epoxy resin over the top so it's got a good strong skin. Then I'll flip it over and I'm going to remove the form. I'm going to remove the plastic that I've got on the bottom here as a form. That's why I've covered it with masking tape, so I'll be able to peel it off hopefully, and then I'll build it up from the bottom. I don't want to add layers of epoxy and fiberglass and end up building this back up, because of course I'm trying to get the height down on the seat. So anyway, again, so epoxy filler, a skin of fiberglass and epoxy. I'll flip it over, remove the form, and I'll build it up with epoxy and fiberglass on the bottom until I've got the strength that I'm happy with. And that cap that I put on here, when I do the fiberglass layer on the top, I'll bring it down over the edge here so that it comes down and locks on here. Anyway, I'll show you real quick the material that I'm using. I've used this several times before on boat projects. It's excellent. It adheres really good to regular fiberglass resin. This West System epoxy. This is the filler here that you mix in with the resin. You get your hardener and resin mixture together, and then you start adding these, they're called microspheres. You start adding them until you get the thickness, you know, like you get it to a consistency of peanut butter so that you can spread it and shape it. And this is a low density, and it's relatively easy to sand after you get done working with it. This is the high density. This stuff is really strong here. It's ends up gray. The powder is a gray color, and man, this stuff is like granite when it's done, and it's good for doing repairing fairings and things like that on boats where you're trying to fill in and get a shape back or build something back that you're going to have to drill into, where you need strength and where it's going to be exposed to water. This is really good stuff, but it's super strong and not that flexible, so I'm not going to be using this. But I'm going to stick with the low density, and then I'll when I build it up from the bottom, I'll use the epoxy resin and a fiberglass matte, chopped matte material. Anyway, that's it. See you on the next step. Okay, getting ready to do the final sanding on the top surface. This is set overnight, and I did the initial fill, sanded it extensively yesterday. There was a few voids over here, a couple little pockets and some bubbles. So I filled it in, skimmed the rest of it, and I'll do the final sanding today and flip it over and pull the form off the backside, and we'll layer it up from the backside. So be back in a second after I've sanded it, and we'll go from there. And I'm just using a palm sander with 5-inch palm sander with 80 grit to take that down. I want to be able to remove a lot of material fast, not trying to end up with any kind of a finish. Okay, you can see here the piece that I removed, heated up and flattened out and used as a form on the bottom here. I taped it in place with duct tape from the bottom, and I coated it. I put a layer of masking tape on the top, so hopefully it looks like it's going to come off. So tell you what, I'm going to put the phone down, and when I peel off the duct tape, I'll come back. Okay, I've got the duct tape off. Cool. Well, I don't know if the masking tape is going to come off, but there's the piece. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know about the masking tape. Well, I'll work on it, get it off the best I can. And this is where I'm gonna put a layer of the fiberglass mat and soak it with epoxy to make sure that it's adhered around the bottom so that this piece doesn't pop through. But so far so good. It looks good. I'm gonna work on the masking tape, and we'll see where we're at then. Okay, here we are. It's about an hour and a half later. Ended up using the palm sander with the 80 grit, fresh piece of 80 grit to get that masking tape off from there, because it had basically fused itself. But that still worked good to release that mold, that piece there that I used for a form. So all in all, it worked out okay. But 90% of it, I used the palm sander, the 5-inch RO sander, and up in here, I had to get my Dremel, put a round, I don't know what you call it. It's a wood carving bit, I guess. Anyway, it's the 1/4-inch round, the big ball, and got in here, get all the adhesive off, and shape this the way that I wanted it up here. And then I took a square tip, chisel tip, and there were some jagged edges here that I removed with the Dremel. And so actually this surface here rough on the bottom, that's good, because next thing now is I'm gonna go ahead and lay some fiberglass mat on here and soak it down with epoxy, and that should give it the strength and adhere it. I'm gonna lap it up the sides here a little ways so that it is adhered and locked on to this. And here, we'll flip it over. Really, really pleased with, as you can see here, it is looking really good. I mean, this is a good 2.5 inches off from here. So actually the front here, it kind of humped up, so it's about 3 inches off in the front and about 2 inches in the back. So we'll see, but it's looking good so far, I think. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip it back over and layer up the fiberglass mat with the epoxy on the bottom to kind of give this a backbone, some strength, because right now there's no, this has no fiberglass in it, so if it cracked or anything, there's no strength in this, really. It's probably real brittle, and we've got to get some strength behind this for support. Well, I put 2 layers of the chopped fiberglass mat and layered some of the scraps I had in there for reinforcement, and gooped it up. We'll let it sit overnight. That should be it. Maybe do a little touch up around the edges to make sure that there's nothing sharp that she's going to get hung up on, and might spray it with some black spray paint just to blend it in so it doesn't look so patchy. Anyway, we'll check it out tomorrow and start the reupholstery work. Okay, here's what we ended up with. As you can see, it's basically flat and actually contours down a little bit. It's about 2.5, 3 inches lower in the front. The foam is molded, so when you put it back on, it's going to look like it's the same height, but it will compress. There's going to be a pocket underneath here, about a 2-inch pocket. So that way it's going to look the same. See, it fits down through here because it's molded to the frame. But you see how much that's compressing. There's a good 2 inches of compression there. And the other thing that I did is the little rubber band that holds the toolkit. The part that I cut out was where that latched, so I went ahead and put a stainless steel screw with a little plastic lever. I think that was a latch for like a storm screen or something like that I got at the hardware store. And anyway, I just drilled through there, screwed it in, and then took my grinder and ground it off smooth. Anyway, I'm going to get busy putting the upholstery back on, and we'll see what the finished product looks like. Well, it's a little later in the day. I had to take a break to attend to some business, but I wanted to show you. I had some manual upholstery staplers, you know, spring-loaded, manually actuated, but it wouldn't. The unit I had was just for flat surfaces. It wouldn't reach into this crevice around here. So I found this guy online. It was $40, and it came with about 3,000 staples, 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch. They're T50 standard T50 staples, so you can use this for any number of things: putting up insulation, stapling, vapor barrier, any number of things. But yeah, for $40, and it came with enough staples to keep me busy for a long time, that's for sure. Anyway, it's got a little safety on it here that sticks down, and around 90% of this it was fine, but there's one little area through here where it wasn't depressing that. So what I did is I don't know if you can see that, I'll zoom in here. That's a little grommet that I got where the linkage comes up from that little rubber nose there is on a steel rod. That steel rod comes up there, comes up and then up to the trigger, and anyway, that fools it to make it think that nose is depressed, and that allows me to get in there with the end of this thing to get those staples in the hard to reach place. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that if you're doing an upholstery project, cost is certainly no reason. You know, if you've got a compressor, I found that for this, running on about 85 pounds pressure seems to be about perfect. It's rated, this unit is rated to run up, I believe, well over 110 PSI. And I tried it out on some hardwood here, and this thing will sink a 1/2 inch staple right into hardwood. So anyway, just wanted to show you that before we get done here. And I'm done. This is what it looks like from the bottom side. I got some satin black, semi-gloss satin black to spray on the repair area there, or the modification area. It's still wet, so it's still a little glossy, but I got the Rust-Oleum that said it was would adhere to plastic. Hopefully that'll do what I need it to do. And flip it over here so you can see. Little dirty and scuffed up, but like I said, there's about 2.5, almost 3 inches of give here now. It's lower than it was, but when she sits on it, this is going to compress all the way down to the repair. I didn't want to take any of the foam out, and that was my first thought, is just get in there and hack some of the foam out. But that's why I wanted to lower the frame and not take the foam out, because that would be very uncomfortable. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it on. We'll see how it is for her, and I'll let you know. But I'm going to call this a success. We just needed to get about 2 inches out of this so that she could get more of her feet on the ground, and I think that's going to do it. Anyway, I hope so. Well, here it is done. You never know, I was in there cutting and pasting on it, and it sits lower, and there's a lot more give. That foam was molded to the seat, so it still kind of sits proud on here, but it compresses way down about 2.5, 3 inches. And I went ahead and spray painted, got a little bit of satin black spray paint to cover up my hack job in here. So now all I got to do is have her come out and give it a try. Hopefully that 2 inches is going to be enough.